Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sending the Wolf. My name is Clarke Wolfe. It is so nice to see you all. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's going to be a great show, and let's let some people kind of join in on the chat. What did everybody think of the Super Bowl? Did your team win? And by that, I mean Team Kendrick or Team Drake. I think it's very clear whose team won that one. Uh, so, hi, Andrew. Great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy Singles Awareness Week to you as well. Um, it's been a wild weekend, that's for sure. But I hope everyone is doing well, safe, lots of news and things to talk about. But the Super Bowl definitely was at the top of my pop culture interests yesterday. And I actually, it's funny. I like went grocery shopping right in the middle of the game, and then I came back. And the Chiefs had not scored. It was the third quarter, and the Chiefs had not scored a single point. And I was like, that was wild. So yeah, lots of great commercials though. Andrew says, yeah, it was your favorite, the Muppets commercial, Andrew? I do feel like I was seeing some people online and they were saying, how, like, or specifically, I saw Latoya Morgan, who's a really incredible genre writer, wrote on The Walking Dead and so on. And she was like, are they looking for writers because they maybe need some help? And I was like, can I be your assistant, girl? Because I don't know. I remember, and maybe again, it's just because like we don't really have a monoculture anymore. But I just the Super Bowl ads are just always celebrities trying to sell you things. And I mean, I love Ben Affleck doing his fun Boston accent, but like at the same time, part of me is like, I don't even understand what this commercial. I did like the Jeremy Strong bit though, where he was method acting and submerging himself in the coffee grounds. That made me laugh. Hey Gishgali, great to see you. Game was great, but I watched. Oh, you watched The Gorge. Okay, cool. Is The Gorge out yet? Gishgali. Hey, Sam. Sam says the Eagles showed a masterclass in defense. Andrew liked the When Harry Met Sally commercial. Oh my gosh. I saw somebody on I think it was Threads say, who do you think it was in the meeting who suggested that the role originally played by Rob Reiner's mother was played by Sydney Sweeney? And that made me laugh, laugh. Um, I am seeing a lot of victory dances. Mike Joy says, I'm just happy the Chiefs lost. Hi, Nicholas. Oh yes, Hard Eyes. Whoa, Nicholas, you've seen Hard Eyes 3 times? Yeah, I did. I checked it out this weekend. I loved it as well. Hey, Alvi. Okay, Gishgali. Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute. I did not think the movie was out yet. The Gorge, meaning, but I'm sure with your special industry connections, maybe you got to see it a little early. Sam says he likes the Nike and Hellman's commercials. Alvi watched Presents. Okay, Alvi says it was okay. Felt like I liked the idea of the movie more than the movie itself. Mike says, loved the full Dun Kings commercial. Great. Hey, Mirror Domains. Hi, Steven. Let us be glad. Let us be great. Let us rejoice and find that the eagle's goodness could subdue the wicked workings of Travis know who. That's Steven Turner. You win the comment of the day. That's so funny. Hey, Brian. Brian says, fly, Eagles, fly. New movies that Andrew wants to see. Oh, Sam, I'm so sorry. Thank you for clarifying. I try to always say they because I don't know. So sorry, Sam. Thank you. Hey, SK Larry. Hyped for the Gorge. Yeah, I mean, like, I did think it was really interesting how how the Gorge is going to be an Apple movie, but it seems like it was shot to be a big movie going experience. Hey King. So I don't know. I've only seen a couple of little I've only seen a couple of little pieces for it. Steve, hi Steve. Steve says they are at a Q&A Collider screening for Cleaner. Which one is Cleaner? Steve, what am I missing? So okay, let's it's great to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. Just wanted to clarify. So Michael Kennedy was supposed to be our guest today. Michael Kennedy, of course, one of my dear friends and the screenwriter of Freaky and It's a Wonderful Knife and Time Cut and of course Hard Eyes in theaters. That was in theaters this past weekend. I hope you all went out and saw it. I know I did. Unfortunately, Michael had a last minute scheduling conflict, so he is not going to be able to be here today. But don't worry, we are rescheduling him. He will be here. So you have plenty of time to think up your questions and send those questions in, whether they're on the Discord, on the Patreon page, or just on social media. But I'll do another call for questions for Michael coming up soon when we officially lock in his reschedule date. Yeah, no, King, we'll talk about Vince for sure. He's got a lot of really great stories about working with Vince and just how like game Vince was to do a lot of the crazy things that they asked him to do. And he also has a really funny story about the Aaron Rodgers mask scene, which is honestly one of my absolute favorite pieces of physical comedy I've seen in a very long time. But I'm so glad you liked the movie, Mike. I loved it too. You know, Josh Rubin, the director, of course, directed another movie that I love called Werewolves Within. If you all watched during the Fear HQ days, I did a thing with like Activision where I hosted a watch along with Sam Richardson and Josh, and it was really fun, really insightful. They were hilarious together. Yeah, Sam says Jordana seemed to have fun with this movie. So did Devin. I think that there's so many fun 90s hat tips because I think that Michael, of course, growing up in with all of the slashers of in the past, like Halloween and Friday the 13th and so on, but of course also kind of coming of age during this like renaissance in the 90s of the slasher subgenre. So I think it was really important for him and the whole team to really pay respect to all of the slasher movies and 90s stars that have come before. So it was a great time. Hard Eyes is still in theaters, so if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Valentine's Day, I feel like, is going to be the perfect opportunity to go check it out. But yeah, so what did you all think of the I know how you felt about the Super Bowl and I know how you felt about the commercials, but I just have to add my name to the chorus. I was blown away by Kendrick Lamar's performance. I thought I thought it was incredible just visually. Oh, the new Daisy Ridley movie. Okay, bye Steve. Have a good day. Yeah, I thought that Kendrick's performance was wonderful. Just like incredible presence, all the choreography, all of the visuals, the color schemes. Sam Jackson, hello, that was great. And of course, the closer, not like us. It was pretty great. Pretty great. And I saw somebody point this out on online and I wanted to echo it because I thought it was a really, really great point. And that is Kendrick's breath control. Like, I thought he sounded absolutely incredible. And as far as I know, and I checked on it earlier, he did not use a vocal track. So I mean, he crushed it. I thought his performance was just like from a vocal perspective was incredible. Oh my god, and SZA, just like that voice, her voice, she sounded amazing. Loved the Serena Williams cameo. It was pretty great. It was pretty great. Let's see. What do we have in the chat? King says King says halftime was lit. It made a statement. Brian said Drake is no more. um I all of the reaction videos too. Like Jamie Foxx posted a reaction video that was absolutely hilarious. I just this feud is having a moment. And that meme, the meme of Kendrick just like in full stride smiling at the camera. I was just like the perfect image. So that was amazing. Mike says, I'm not a big Kendrick or rap fan, and I really liked the show. Andrew says the Paul McCartney halftime show is one of my favorite halftime shows, being a Beatles fan. Uh Gishgali says one of the top streamers who's known for being very snarky released a very positive YouTube review of Heart Eyes. Said it worked as both a rom-com and a slasher. Well, that is high praise. I mean, Michael, again, I'm sure we will go down this road and talk about all of this, but Michael, one of his first jobs in town was actually working for Seth MacFarlane at Family Guy. And Michael loves comedy. And for years, he and I have been talking about how do we make a horror sitcom? A sitcom specifically, because as you all know, or maybe you don't, I'll tell you now, my dream job is to be on a multicam sitcom. Like the supporting lead on a multicam sitcom. Think Megan Mullally on Will and Grace. That is my dream job. And I am not being funny. That is serious. Like a lot of actors really turn their nose up at multicams. Not this gal. Just love. So anyway, we've been talking for years, like, how do we crack this? How do we crack a multicam horror show? I'd even settle for a single cam, but comedy, of course. Let's see. Nicholas says, unlike some movies I've seen multiple times, the jokes and the kills in Heart Eyes still play and shock on repeat viewings. Absolutely. Sam says, Kendrick was fun from the second Sam Jackson showed up. You knew what it was going to be. Absolutely. King says, that's what happens when you practice. Choreography was on point too. 100% King. Steven said, I liked Gaga singing Hold My Hand as a tribute to the victims of the New Orleans terror attack right before the official Super Bowl started. As always, Gaga's vocals are powerful. Absolutely. Sam also says, I mean, two potential Drake exes showed up basically dancing on his grave. Yeah, it was pretty wild. Hey, ZSH. How are you? I got your question for Michael, and I will save it for sure. Michael had a last minute scheduling issue, and so we are rescheduling him. So don't worry, he will be here. Have you seen Heart Eyes? Please tell me. Um, let's see. Yes, I know, CSH. Yeah, the perfect precious babies. I know. Don't worry. He'll be here. It'll be great. It'll be great when he is. Let's see. Uh, uh, uh. Came out after her great halftime show. Was Hold My Hand the song from Top Gun Maverick? Am I making that up? I thought that was a her Top Gun Maverick song. But Nicholas says Prince will always be the best Super Bowl halftime show. I'm not a Kendrick Lamar fan, but his show is actually fun to watch. It was so entertaining. Sam says Prince is definitely a top 5 hashtag halftime show. Let's see. Oh, thank you, King. Yes, I've been told my whole life that depending on especially what color my hair is, people tell me they were remind me of Megan Mullally. Let's see. Okay. Hold My Hand was from Top Gun. Mirror says, I liked Hard Eyes. We need more Devin Sawa. Agreed. He was great. So we will get into all of your Heart Eyes questions. Actually, too, hopefully this will give everybody a chance to maybe check the movie out. If you haven't seen it, go see it in theaters. Support original horror movies. Please. And then you can send me your questions. So you can join Patreon for free and then add questions there. There's a tab in the Discord to add questions, or you can just send them to me on social. But once we lock in our date, I will let you guys know, and he will be back, or he will be here soon. Marcus says the weekend's halftime show is the all-time for me. The production and almost filmmaking nature was insane. Sam says it's always fun to watch clips of Prince performing. Oh my gosh. That was the other one. Hold on. I have to pull this. That's one of my topics today, actually, is all of these like wild cancellations, like production cancellations and scrapping movie scrappings like at the last minute. So Michel Gondry and Pharrell's movie, they got into post and decided they're not going to release it. Obviously, Will Forte was just talking about Coyote versus Acme, and how upset he was, and I've been talking about that for a while. And then it was announced last week that the Prince documentary is not going to be released by Netflix. So we'll get into all of that very soon. Hey, David. Um, let's see. What else we got? Sam says, let's see. Sam says Turner. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Gaga is also in top 5 along with Prince, Diana Ross, Shakira, and J-Lo, and Rihanna. Rihanna's show was really fun. I was actually with a group of friends the year Rihanna performed, and one of my friends who was there, he's a bit of he can be a bit of a pop culture curmudgeon. And when we were getting ready to watch it, he was like, I truly could not tell you any of Rihanna's songs. And I was like, yes, you could. But then we watched the show and he was like, that was so entertaining. And I was like, Riri's the best. So yeah, and then actually similarly, Sam, last night, so I missed Kendrick's performance live because I went to the grocery store. I had to get to the grocery store, and that was the only time I could go. And when I got back and the game finished, I went on YouTube to try to watch the halftime show, and it hadn't published yet. So I watched Shakira and J Lo's show from start to finish, and yeah, it was very entertaining. I mean, honestly, I feel like when pop stars are doing halftime shows, they are just so entertaining no matter what. Like there's always kind of a spectacle. So I love a big flashy halftime show. I think they're really fun. I thought Madonna's show was awesome. I'm a 90s, kid who came of age in like the aughts. So I loved NSYNC and Aerosmith at the halftime show. That was so fun for me. Um yeah, and then a lot of people talking about Michael Jackson at the halftime show, how that was sort of the thing that ushered in like this new era of like the way that we do halftime shows. And I don't think I've ever seen the performance from start to finish. It's definitely one that I need to pull up and watch. Stephen Turner says, I would love Miley Cyrus to do a halftime show in a year soon. She'd be great. That would be, I mean, she would be really entertaining. She's such a good performer. I just think she's like got major rock star vibes. And of course, Beyonce's halftime show was incredible. I mean, just like so artistic and powerful, and that was a really fun era of Beyonce for sure. Alvi says they need to get Bad Bunny. Let's see what else. Andrew says, I remember Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake's halftime show, which led to the Paul McCartney one. You are correct, Andrew. You are correct for sure. Lowell says, my dad said that Prince's halftime show was the best halftime show of all time. I think a lot of people feel that way. Let's see. Gishgali says, seeing Prince live was always a trip because he would wander from guitar to bass to piano to drums, and he was always at the best at any instrument. Well, maybe that's a really good ooh, sorry, shoulder. Maybe that's a good segue. The Prince, because I actually I know that there's plenty of movie and TV news. But and of course the Critics' Choice Awards were this weekend, a lot of surprises. I saw a bunch of movies this weekend as well. I finally watched Anora. Of course, I saw Heart Eyes. I watched a Real Pain, and I also watched, what was the other one I watched? Oh, I rewatched The Substance. And that was actually really fun. Because I felt like, ooh, here we go. Because I felt like it was just like, how should I do this? How do I normally do it? I feel like that's very small. Feels small to me. But The Substance. I rewatched The Substance and liked it better the second time. I really liked it the first time, but really really liked it the second time. Definitely like worth a rewatch for sure. Especially too because I think going into The Substance, I didn't know what the tone was going to be. Like I've seen Coralie's movie Revenge, and I feel like tonally Revenge is a little bit more serious than The Substance even from the beginning. Like The Substance I think is clearly a dark comedy from minute 1. So I didn't know that. I didn't know, and I had kind of stayed very like I hadn't been spoiled. I hadn't seen any trailers for The Substance. I just knew that it won Best Screenplay at Cannes and everyone was talking about it. So I think knowing what the expectation, or like knowing what my expectations should have been, or like making the adjustment in my expectations was definitely like helpful to appreciating the movie overall. Let's see. Do, do. Steven says, I'm sad Britney Spears never got a halftime show and doubt she would ever want to now after everything she's been through. Yeah, Steven. I mean, gosh, listen, and I was thinking about this the other day, like in her heyday, Britney, you know what was so special, I think, about Britney Spears? Like, obviously, some people you have to have it, whatever that it factor is. And obviously, she is a very beautiful woman, like that, whatever. But Britney was such a good athlete. She was so athletic. And so I think she's an incredible dancer. And yeah, I agree. So I agree. I think she would have been super entertaining, especially in her heyday when she was, like in it and and she just I really was thinking about how what a talent she is. And I hope whatever's going on, she's just safe and happy. That's what I'll say. All right. Mm-mm-mm. And ZSH says, predicting it now, Chapel Roan will be a future halftime show, maybe 5-10 years. She would be entertaining as well. That was a really fun performance at the Grammys, like for sure. That might have been, I mean, I thought she was great. David says, I think Jafar Jackson, who plays Michael Jackson in his film debut, should do a halftime show in tribute of Michael. That would be epic. Let's see. Sam says, "Oh my God, Brittany would be an amazing pick." Um, seems like King agrees. ZSH says, "My dream halftime show is Rage Against the Machine." Oh my God, well, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but who could say? Honestly, who could say? And King says, "Or Nine Inch Nails." Oh my God, that would also be wild. Okay. And then all right, so let's talk about let's talk about some cancellations, honestly. I just think this was such a theme that segues nicely into our Prince conversation. And yes, speaking of awards, I have a little article about the Critics' Choice, which it does seem like the awards show kind of trajectory is getting shaken up a little bit. Steven says Anora winning lots of the Guild Awards for Best Pictures. King says Anora. Let's see what else. Yeah. So let's talk about this. I pulled 3 articles. So this weekend, since we've streamed last, it was announced that the big Prince documentary that was supposed to air on Netflix is not going to be airing. Pharrell and Michel Gondry's film got into post-production and they decided to just scrap it altogether. And Will Forte is out with another article about Coyote versus Acme, which of course is the shelved WB movie that they decided to, like, in my view, it felt like WB put a price tag on the movie that was unfair, knowing that no one would pay it. Even though they did have a couple of offers from other streamers, they declined. Then, of course, they're not going to release it theatrically. So they basically are doing this stupid tax write off thing. And by all accounts, that was a very good movie. The movie was good. It tested well. There is like no and it was finished. There was no reason that Coyote versus Acme should have been shelved. So I just kind of wanted to have a broader discussion about all of this because I think it's really interesting. And I've kind of hinted at this a little bit over the last couple of months, but I think it's a really big problem. Now, if the artist decides, like it sounds like Pharrell and Michel Gondry did, that it just is the movie's not working and we don't want this to be released, that's to me very different than maybe like legal arbitration with the Prince documentary kind of shutting it down, or the studio taking what I believe to be like a freaking illegal tax write-off, but I'm not a lawyer. Um, let's see. Steven says the Pharrell movie shocked me. It had an all-star studded cast. I wonder if the Lego movie about him flopping kind of made them feel, let's not spend more money. I mean, maybe Steven, but at the same time, the movie was done. Like they were in post-production. They had already shot all of it. It's like, I mean, your post-production budget is allocated like in the beginning. So I don't really know if it was a matter of recouping costs. Like, I just don't know. Let's see. Sam says Leslie Grace and Sasha Cali were all done dirty. Steven says, I read WB was allowed to shelve the films for a tax write-off because it was acquired by another company and now they couldn't do that so easily now. Yes. I still, y'all, I know I sound like a broken record, but I've been asking for years if an accountant could explain this to me, like really explain to me how what WB is doing is legal. I understand like you buy a company and they have product and it came with your purchase and you decide to take the tax, like delete it because it came with the stuff you inherited. But I don't think that that's the case for Coyote versus Acme, which is why it's such a big head scratcher. But let's start with the Prince conversation since we were talking about the Super Bowl and great halftime shows. So from CNN, Netflix, which had planned to stream the Ezra Edelman directed project, released a statement Thursday along with the estate for the late singer that the project would not be moving forward. The Prince estate and Netflix have come to a mutual agreement that will allow the estate to develop and produce a new documentary featuring exclusive content from Prince's archive. As a result, the Netflix documentary will not be released. It was reported last year that representatives of the late singer's estate were not happy with what they viewed as, quote, dramatic factual inaccuracies and, quote, sensationalized portions of Prince's life as portrayed in the 6-part documentary, which had been in production for 4 years. They didn't get in. Wait, we need to see what Ezra has to, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't Ezra Edelman direct the OJ? Yeah, OJ Made in America. Like, I mean, that documentary was absolutely incredible. Alvi says the Acme and Batgirl stuff makes no sense. Maybe there's some other behind the scenes stuff. Sam says, I'm even more curious about the Pharrell project now, especially with Michel Gondry. I mean, what a team. I totally agree, Sam. King says, how do you profit from spending money to make it and then not utilize it and still make money from shelving it? King, the analogy that I've heard is it's like the mob burning down one of their own restaurants and then collecting the tax money for arson, or for fire damage. You're just like, you can't burn down your own stuff and then take insurance money. Like that's not how it works. David. David says, fun fact, I work for WB in the London office. They didn't know how to market the Coyote film. They didn't have the confidence that it would make its money back. Sadly, Zaslav needed to make cuts. Oh boy, David. I don't doubt anything you just said, but it's also like, what do you I think I know I keep quoting all these tweets that I see online or like posts that I see online, but somebody was kind of pointing out with David Zaslav, like, how do you fail to make, all of these properties that WB has ownership of profitable? Like, and I feel that way with, that's kind of the point with Looney Tunes. Like, really, you can't make the Looney Tunes profitable? Like, I don't know. It's kind of wild. King says OJ Doc series was cool. Yeah, I thought that was an incredible film. Now, let's see if the director has said anything. Represent no, 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 we know this. Okay, Edelman, best known for creating the OJ Made in America documentary, had been quietly working on the film for over 4 years. He was given extensive access to Prince's archives with the first drafts for the deal made between Netflix and representatives of Comerica Bank, the interim executor for Prince's estate. Oh, calling it a 6-hour series. Instead, Edelman reportedly delivered 9 hours of footage, a violation of the agreement that presumably enabled the estate to withhold music rights. Fascinating. According to a September report from the New York Times, the documentary featured Prince's ex girlfriends accusing him of physical and emotional abuse. The film touched on Prince's journey, both his artistry and his personal relationships, with accounts of his own abusive childhood and the abandonment of his young wife, Maite Garcia, after the couple lost their child. Oh boy. So yeah, I mean, this kind of sounds like a little bit too of some of what the Sacha Baron Cohen Freddie Mercury movie, and how like the band Queen wouldn't give them the rights to any of the music or sign off on any of that, because any of the portrayals, um it was unflattering to Freddie, and so that's how we got Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a bit more of the, like, traditional standard biopic fare. Let's see. Steven says those thoughts about a film and marketing should make and making its money back should be conversations being had before you make a movie. I mean, yeah. ZSH says late stage capitalism winning in the eternal struggle of art versus commerce. Does actually make sense, though. Greed usually wins over altruism in this very corrupt modern world. Lowell says the Muppet Super Bowl commercial was the most viewed Super Bowl commercial. The people yearn for Muppets, and yet Disney keeps mishandling them. I totally agree with you, Lowell. I totally agree. Mirror says, listening to Prince talk about music is awesome. I sometimes get lost down rabbit holes of watching his old interviews. Aldi says, da-da-da. Yeah, couldn't you wait to release it at a time that could be optimal, meaning Coyote versus Acme, instead of just deleting it? Yeah, I'm looking at Toxic Avenger and seeing how it's going to get a release after years. And Alvi, to your point, which I think this is a wonderful point, like studios shelve movies all the time or wait for more operative or opportune moments. When we talked about the news about Toxic Avenger, I kind of like in real time realized, yeah, I liked the movie fine when I saw it in the fall of 2023. But here we are in a circumstance where actually I feel like the Toxic Avenger, Macon Blair's Toxic Avenger movie is going to play better now because of the environment that we find ourselves in culturally and beyond. So I think that's a really great point. Like, why wouldn't you hold on to it and release it when you have a better idea of what's going on? Gishgali says, I think the issue is that Zaslav sees WB as a short-term play. They could eventually make money with Batgirl and Coyote, but would rather cash out quick. I think you're right, Gishgali. Honestly, like, yeah, he doesn't seem to be interested in growing or adapting the Warner Brothers brand into the future of Hollywood or filmmaking or television or narrative, let's call it scripted content creation, even if you want to say that, which whatever, like, I think content creation, movies, TV are all different, but nonetheless, I do agree that it doesn't seem to be a priority to him. Except I guess, I mean, I'm still not convinced. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I really hope that the DC universe, like, who knows what James Gunn and Peter Safran's deals look like, but I don't know how you trust I don't know how you trust the studio with David Zaslav in charge. I just don't. I don't know how you do that. Sam says some people don't think about distribution and marketing until too late. Um, yeah, and King says with respect to the Prince documentary, so they didn't want them to tell the truth. Mirror Domains, that's right. This is we didn't get to this story, but a couple of weeks ago, but yes, they're having to reshoot the third act of the Michael Jackson biopic because the estate, yeah, so it's actually it was a loss, it was a settlement. Um it was a settlement with a molestation accuser's family. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the settlement said that the accuser and the accuser's family could never be depicted in film or television. Like it was, so that is where this, and apparently, I guess that got overlooked when they went into production, that little bit in the contract. And so, yeah, that's that story just, I don't, wild. Um, what else? Yep, Prince is still a legend. Agreed. Sam says, I respect Elton John for doing a biopic, not afraid to show him as a flawed person, if I remember correctly. I think the film opens with a therapy session where he's very open about it. And also, Elton John just posted a video on his own social media about his new album of him throwing a tantrum and like being a total asshole, excuse my language. That is recent. This is from the most recent album. And he kind of was saying like, yeah, this is just the you know, this is the path I was on to making this album. It was a challenging album for me, and and he was showing himself not on his best behavior. Um, let's see. David says exactly right, Gishgali, with respect to Warner Brothers being a short-term play. David says, I'm just hoping we get sold again. Yeah. I mean, honestly, David, like that studio is my favorite studio in all of the studios. Like, it's always a good day when you're on a lot, for sure. But Warner Brothers is just something so magical to me about Warner Brothers and the history of Warner Brothers, and now kind of what they control, from the Wizard of Oz to the DC superheroes to the Looney Tunes, um, and so on and so on. So like, yeah, I just hope that one day, again, it's a business. I get it. Like I y'all know, I'm not Pollyanna about this stuff, but I do wish that like uh Warner Brothers was in the hands of us of people that cared about it. But what can you say? Brian says Zaslav just wants to be the next Bob Iger. That's what everyone who covered his entire career has said. This isn't a short-term play, because if it were, Warner Brothers would have been sold a long time ago. King says Warner Brothers makes me think of Animaniacs, the lot. Yep. Sam says Warner Brothers is a cool lot. Hey, Zach, man. Uh, I'm so glad you enjoyed the interview on Thursday with Dylan. For anybody who's lurking in the chat, by the way, I know that we had originally said that Michael Kennedy, the screenwriter of Freaky and Hard Eyes, was going to be here today. And unfortunately, he had a last minute conflict, and we are going to have to reschedule him. But he will be here. We will have him. I can't wait to have him. So in the meantime, go see Heart Eyes in the theater and support original slasher movies. But yeah, speaking of Coyote versus Acme, let's look at the Will Forte conversation. Here we go. Um, Will Forte says Coyote versus Acme shelving makes his blood boil because it was really good. Ugh. I mean, honestly, again, just it makes my blood boil too. Will Forte isn't holding back his thoughts on Coyote versus Acme not seeing the light of day. In a recent interview with MovieWeb, Forte was asked his thoughts on the 2003 film that Warner Brothers shelved a year after filming wrapped for tax write-offs. The animated film also starred John Cena and had James Gunn attached as executive producer, who also worked on its screenplay. This also leads me to believe that perhaps there was just something going on here where even James, in his newfound relationship and position of power at WB, even James was not able to intervene. Like, that's really interesting to me. Um, and here's the quote. Put your earmuffs on. We're going to say a naughty word. Okay. Quote, my thoughts were that that it's fucking bullshit. Forte playfully replied before getting more serious, adding, it's such a delightful movie. It deserves so much better. I can't tell you possibly why the decision was made to not release it, but it makes my blood boil. And thank you for asking me about it because I like talking about the movie. Forte went on to explain that he doesn't want people to forget what they did to this movie. I appreciate them letting us make it, but don't let us make this thing that we fall in love with and then not show it. I mean, I would understand if the thing sucked, but it's really good. The Hollywood Reporter first broke the news in November 2023 that the feature wouldn't get a release. Quote, with the relaunch of Warner Brothers Pictures animation in June, the studio has shifted its global strategy to focus on theatrical releases. The film is estimated to have cost $72 million to produce. After seeing Coyote versus Acme, Forte shared a statement on X, which reads in part, quote, look, when it comes to Hollywood business stuff, I don't know shit about shit. Even when a movie tests very well like ours, there's no guarantee it's going to be a hit. And at the end of the day, the people who paid for this movie can obviously do whatever they want with it. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I effing hate it or agree with it. And it doesn't mean that this movie is anything less than magnificent. So there's also, to me, something I've always wondered about this type of behavior as well is how and why actors, especially actors that can throw their weight around, like, don't file lawsuits that say that for like there's got to be some legal claim to we are entitled to residuals or we're entitled to percentages or whatever on the back end. And if you don't release the movie, then we don't make our full rate. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like when, to me, it's kind of like when Scarlett Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney when they were going to release Black Widow during COVID on VOD and not theatrically. And I think it took someone like her who is an A-lister and who does have power and who does have attorneys and also a long-standing and valued relationship with the studio to say, hey, like, you can't do this. But maybe it's not maybe it's not worth it for them. Sam says, I think WB started as a more scrappy studio and now it's just become the establishment. Oops, sorry. Ishgali says, I still love the Fox lot. I used to work there, and there's nothing like wandering into Fox Mulder's office on my lunch break. I was just at the Fox lot a couple of, like 2 months ago, and it's cool for sure. I think maybe because also I'm a Valley girl and I don't love Century City. So maybe that's why I don't love the Fox lot as much, but I know nonetheless, it's by it's a favorite for a lot of people. Let's see. Kai says, I think it ought to be tax fraud to shelve it like that. They made a viable film. I totally agree, Kai. Yes, we totally understood you. Hi, Paige. Great to see you. The bean counters need to take a break and let artists fly. David says, Brian, when we merged with Discovery after AT&T had bought us, we couldn't be sold again until mid last year. Oh, that's interesting, David. I didn't actually realize that. Good context. King says, money matters more than creativity. Uh, Thank you, Andrew. Yes, I'm a Valley girl by way of Atlanta. And then, yeah, so on this topic, though, wait, here's the details of the Pharrell situation. So, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Davine Joy Randolph, and Janelle Monáe were part of the star-studded cast for the feature inspired by Williams's childhood. Pharrell Williams and Michel Gondry have decided to scrap their movie musical that was in post-production for Universal Pictures. Golden, which was previously went by the title Atlantis, will not be shopped to other interested parties. So that similarly, kind of like we were just talking about, they're not trying to sell it off. They are just going to scrap the movie completely. Um, uh, it had been previously scheduled for release on May 9th. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Like, this is not nebulous. Like, this is like, wow. The star-studded cast included Kelvin Harrison Jr., Halle Bailey, uh, Davine Joy Randolph, Brian Tyree Henry, Janelle Monáe, Missy Elliott, and Quinta Brunson. Wow, yeah, that cast is like insane. The project was set in Virginia Beach during the summer of 1977 and inspired by Atlantis Apartments, the neighborhood where Pharrell grew up. Gondry helmed the musical from a script by Martin Hines and Stephen Levinson, while Williams was a producer alongside Mimi Valdez and Gil Netter. When all of us got into the editing room, we collectively decided there wasn't a path forward to tell the version of the story we originally envisioned, Williams and Gondry said in a joint statement shared with The Hollywood Reporter. We appreciate all of the hard work of the talented cast and crew. While we are disappointed, we can't deliver this film. We have incredible partners at Universal and will collaborate in a different capacity again soon. This is crazy. Like, doesn't that feel crazy? Sam says, damn, the waste of that cast is a shame. Yeah. Um, yeah, Missy. Yeah, King says Missy. Williams has a long relationship with Universal, including his work on the music for the Despicable Me franchise. His 2013 hit Happy, which was featured on the Despicable Me 2 soundtrack, went on to receive an Oscar nomination and win a Grammy. Universal also handled the international distribution on Piece by Piece, last year's animated biographical documentary of Williams' life told with Legos that was distributed domestically by Focus Features. You know, this is also interesting because, like, and again, we don't know, and this may be apples to oranges, but you know, when Robert Eggers made The Northman for Focus Features, it was kind of came out in that in between time of like we're still in COVID, but things have loosened up a little bit. It was the most expensive, movie he had ever made. It was ambitious and it was very different than The Lighthouse and the Witch. And it did not do well financially. I think Focus took a loss on that movie. Please correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Um, so but of course Focus, still has a relationship with Eggers, and of course now they've just had a really big hit with him with Nosferatu and are continuing to make movies with him. So I bring this up because it's like maybe even if there was a little bit of truth to the idea of like, well, the Lego, film kind of didn't succeed or wasn't financially successful, but it doesn't seem like they would just cut all ties, over that. During an interview with Empire, published in November, Williams discussed feeling grateful to work on Golden. Quote, it's a coming of age story about self-discovery and pursuing your dreams, but it's so much more magical than that. It's a celebration of Black life, Black culture, and more importantly, Black joy. I just don't get it. I wonder if we'll ever learn more about this situation. It's too bad. Makes me sad. Also, just purely anecdotally, I have a I'm friendly with somebody in Atlanta who does a lot of casting and is an actor himself, and he posted that he worked on this movie Golden, and it was one of the best experiences he had had, and how absolutely devastated he was that the movie was not going to be seeing the light of day. Like, just how awful. um Anyway, Sam says this cancellation sucks. So yeah, I know this is kind of like a downer, but I kind of just wanted to bring up, like, industry wise, every time when I make my show notes, I have a movie section, I have a TV section, and then I have a little industry section. And you know, I just was like, wow, there's so many pieces to this. Like, it's kind of wild. And if you guys are like down, I want to keep going with this, like, broader industry conversation. I thought this was a really interesting story, and I'm curious what you all think about it, especially since The Brutalist did use a intermission, like a proper intermission, which is the first time that that had happened theatrically in a while. So Wicked producer Mark Platt pushed for a single film version with intermission. That was a battle I lost. Wicked producer Mark Platt is teasing what's next for the film's story in the forthcoming second movie, along with recalling his initial hesitation to divide the screen adaptation of the successful Broadway show into two features. During the annual Producers Guild of America nominees breakfast on Saturday, Platt was asked about the biggest hurdles in bringing Wicked, which he originally produced for the Broadway stage, to the screen for Universal Pictures. I remember, quote, I remember going to the movies. Oh no, it's the Hollywood Reporter. What am I doing? I can't highlight things on these articles. I remember going to the movies as a kid and watching musicals or Lawrence of Arabia that had intermissions in it. And that was actually my dream for Wicked, that we could do it with an intermission. That was one battle I lost. Platt went on to explain that he and the project's creative team, including Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holzman, who worked on the Broadway version, could not find anything they wanted to omit from the stage show. And in fact, they had elements about the characters that they were still wishing to explore. Quote, when we did the stage musical, we cut out a lot of things that we wanted to elaborate on, Platt continued. What was Elphaba like as a child? What did she think of the wizard? What was her heart's dream? Those kinds of things. The producer also teased the themes that are set to be explored with Wicked for Good, which Platt says will focus on Glinda as she, quote, learns what it really means to be good. Platt likened Glinda's journey to that of late politician Robert F. Kennedy's path in the 1960s as he evolved after the death of his brother, John F. Kennedy. Quote, at first, he was not a leader for the right reasons, Platt recalled about RFK. Then his brother was assassinated and he went through a real catharsis. He really went to the bottom and he came out the other side. Now, we talked about this just a couple of weeks ago. And sorry, before I get into that, for the Brutalist producer Morrison, his film was always intended as a 3-hour plus epic that would have an intermission. Quote, Brady and Mona had always written it with an intermission and thought it would be a fun way to create a communal experience. We were coming out of COVID and thinking about people missing the experience in the theater and being places together. So I just wanted to say about this, the Wicked of it all. Like, I I understand the hesitation to, oh, well, actually, let's go to chat. Da, da, da. Yeah, pieces like Legos. I realized when I said that, King, that I did that. Hi, Slimer. Finally catching the show live. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Alvy says, how long does a movie have to be to justify an intermission? That's a good question. Aside from The Brutalist, the last big movie I can recall with an intermission was Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. But I don't know the rules, or I think honestly it's probably more about theater space. But Ooh, this is interesting, Gishgali. I just went through a feature contract, and there are a dozen ways they can get away with shelving a film. Looks like the artist can protest and negotiate a settlement. Ugh, that stinks. Let's be glad Mark Platt didn't push for Ben Platt to be in Wicked like he did for Dear Evan Hansen. Steven, I love all of this theater shade, this Broadway shade. So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I got to go see Wicked here in Los Angeles at the Pantages, the touring production. I had seen Wicked before. I had seen it twice before, but I had not seen it, since I really since the movie was in talks, like since they announced any of that, really. And what I realized was, Act 1 of Wicked, the stage show, is pretty close to the movie. Like, in some ways, actually surprisingly close. Like, little bits in the movie that I didn't remember from the show are from the show. So that was cool. And certainly there are little more character moments, and as the producers just said, like, you can spend a little bit more time, what is going on with Elphaba, like what is her heart's desire, like all of these things. Act 2, which I know a lot of people say they don't like, um, which I disagree. I love Act 2, but that's, of course, when all the scary stuff happens. And some of my favorite songs are in Act 2. But Act 2 has a lot of room for story. It feels like Act 2 on stage is rushed, but I also understand that you can't make, you have to be mindful of how long shows are. And so I do think that, and having not seen the script, but knowing what happens in Act 2, it seems like if they flesh it out kind of in the way that they fleshed out Act 1, there's going to be plenty of movie. And that would be talking about like a 5-hour experience, So, and ultimately, and also honestly, producerially, part of this is probably that, much like we've seen with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, let's say, part 1, like the idea that, you're teasing audio, or Fast and Furious, like how that feels like the Fast X felt like part 1, or was supposed to be part 1 of a new trilogy, and those two didn't quite perform the way that, I think the studios would have wanted. And so it is risky to jump in with this like part 1 of it all, and then, kind of have the movie not succeed. And then you're like, well, shoot, maybe we should have done the whole thing at once. So producerially, I totally understand that. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents from what I'm hearing. Bye, King. Thanks so much for being here. Let's see. Doo-doo-doo. Steven says, if I was a movie theater, I would like long movies to have an intermission, encouraging people to buy more concessions. Yes, Steven, that is obviously, like, that's a really good counter argument for sure, especially because if you're not making a ton off of ticket prices. Yeah, so people are going to get up and they're going to buy twice as much stuff. I totally think you're right. I think that's a really good selling point. Slimer says, is the musical as long as the movies? Really loved Wicked. The musical is the runtime of the stage musical is basically the runtime of Act 1. So it is fleshed out. And of course, by the way, like when you're doing something cinematically, you can spend time looking in rooms and like, going places that you just can't go in a show. So that I understand. Steven says, I went into Wicked completely fresh. I didn't even know the story. And I'm glad I got to experience the movie that way. And Sam says, I think movies combined are longer than the musical. Yeah, they definitely are. Nicholas says, my preference is that a movie with an intermission should be at least 2.5 hours. However, it should be noted that 1965's The Agony and the Ecstasy is less than 2.5 hours long and had an intermission. And ZSH says, wow, it's actually about RFK and JFK. That's much deeper than what I imagined it was about. There's a lot of ZSH, just as a little FYI, or like a little bit of, backstory. If you read the book, if you haven't already read the book is very mature. Like, Gregory Maguire's book is very mature. It is very political. It is meaning it is about politics. It is about the way that countries and societies function, and who and heroes and villains function within those societies. It is absolutely exploring conversations about good and evil. And yeah, and so actually doesn't surprise me to use the RFK JFK conversation. Yeah, but I had never put that together before, so that was actually really insightful. Gishgali says Matt and Tyler are out with a biopic package about paranormal DJ Art Bell. Oh wow. That's great. That's really great. Gish golly. Sam says, I forgot the name of it, but Paul Giamatti technically did that comic book adaptation, which is kind of a biopic. American Splendor, says Nicholas. Sam says, yes, American Splendor is the name of it. Was mixing it up with American Fiction. Yeah. Paul Giamatti just has this incredible, what an interesting career. He seems to be doing it right. Okay. So that's that little piece of little industry news. And then there was one more thing. What was the other little bit of industry news I wanted to talk about? Have you all been reading about this? Oh, this was it. This was it. And this will actually be a good segue into the Critics' Choice winners. And the Oscar race is heating up. Obviously, the Amelia Perez controversy has sort of, a lot of people kind of think has dinged its chances to be successful. However, Zoe Saldana just won another supporting actress award. So I do think that that's a pretty good, I think that's a pretty likely win. But we'll get to that in a second. Oscars consider requiring films to disclose AI use after the Brutalist and Amelia Perez controversies. So we talked about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago. The editor of The Brutalist kind of said, yeah, we used AI to sort of perfect Felicity Jones and Adrian Brody's Hungarian, specifically like in spoken Hungarian, specifically in the voiceover sections, and when they're reading their letters back and forth. It is the editor was like, I'm Hungarian, this is a very hard language, and it is a very hard language to pronounce correctly, and so we used AI to get some of those pronunciations right. Now, I am of the opinion, as an actor myself, but also as a new director and a filmmaker, I will call myself a little filmmaker, that the imperfection is part of being an actor and being human. And so also there's such a small percentage of audience who would detect the pronunciation issues that they were allegedly fixing. And so it seemed to me to be a bit unnecessary. So I thought that it was a bummer. I thought that it was a bummer to have to, we talked about a couple of weeks ago with when David Fincher did his restoration of Seven, and talking about how in 1994, whenever the movie came out or they were shooting it, they were trying to get whatever print they were working off of up to the quality of what it was in the 90s. But even then, there would be certain, like there was a scene that was a little bit out of focus. And so they were able to, or there was a camera bump. And so they were able to sort of use AI to smooth that part out. To me, that's like, I get it, because it is a visual, like it's a visual medium. I understand smoothing out a camera bump with technology. I understand sharpening the focus with technology. I do. But in terms of the performance element, I don't know. It just seems so um unnecessary. Uh, but that said, Brian says, I think AI usage should be disclosed. And Sam says, I'm not surprised to hear the Academy is possibly anti AI after hearing reports a while back that people like Spielberg were initially against Netflix movies. hmm they seem to be slow to some major change, sure. Stephen Turner says La La Land had imperfect singing with Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling yet still won many Oscars, including Emma's Best Actress. I much prefer hearing the emotion in your voice than over processed vocals. Yeah, I mean, 100%. 100. But so let's read on. Um the use of AI in Best Picture contender The Brutalist recently grabbed headlines and ignited controversy, but it isn't the only Oscar contender to use the advanced technology. High profile films such as A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, and Amelia Perez have also used AI in large or small ways, and the growing popularity has led the Motion Picture Academy to actively explore changing its Oscar submission requirements so their films would have to disclose their use of AI variety. So now that's I had not heard about A Complete Unknown, Dune, or Amelia Perez. The Academy currently offers an optional disclosure form for AI use. But governors and branch executive committees are now investigating how AI is used in each branch with an eye toward making disclosure mandatory in the 2026 Oscar rules, which are expected to be published in April. The Academy's SciTech Council is working on recommended language, Variety has also learned. Okay. Um, let's see. Let's keep going. What does this say? Oop. But for let's see. But for a look at the state of the art this year, the Visual Effects Society Awards Emerging Technology category is packed with such nominees who are using AI. Um, and including Australia-based Rising Sun Pictures Revise machine learning toolset, which according to the company's website has been used for a variety of digital ML augmentation, most notably face replacement, facial performance modification, de-aging, body replacements, and other likeness adaptations. Ugh. The VES entry details its application in Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and says that it was also used on A Complete Unknown, Deadpool and Wolverine, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Apples Never Fall. Jenny Zahere acknowledged that A Complete Unknown, the Best Picture nominated Bob Dylan biopic, and Deadpool and Wolverine did utilize Revise, but declined to offer any additional details. So interesting. Very, very interesting. Yes, this is what I want to know. A spokesperson for Searchlight Pictures, which released A Complete Unknown, said, quote, the technology was used to assist in 3 brief wide shots on a motorcycle, not involving performance or creative enhancements. The technology is commonplace for making stunt people resemble their actor in films. Okay, sure. I mean, we've all seen behind the scenes things where they'll take the face off of the movie star and put it on their stunt person. The VFX facility implemented the specific methodology as a tool for the artist to use for only these 3 shots. These type of VFX stunt face replacement shots have been used for decades. Somehow that feels less egregious to me, but um, Mirror says AI should be disclosed if it's used in script writing too. I mean, I definitely agree with that. Gishgali says, I think if you start labeling AI in movies, it will very soon stop meaning anything. Absolutely. Absolutely AI. Or excuse me, Gishgali. I was combining Gishgali and AI. David says, I do worry that AI will replace the Simpsons cast. Wasn't Hank Azaria just out there kind of talking about all of that? Oh, I should look that up. Steven says, I also wonder why they're using AI for singing instead of auto tune and how it's different. Well, this article says that they did not use the AI for singing, Stephen. It says that they used it just for motorcycle stunt work. Kai says, I personally would have preferred better singers and dancers than use AI on Emma and Ryan. There are triple threats with names for film promotion. Chris Pine, oh my God, is a fantastic singer. Kai. I, we, it pains me that one of the only Hollywood musicals Chris Pine has been in is Into the Woods, because not because I don't like Into the Woods, but because I think that movie stinks. And y'all know I try very hard not to say negative things, but boy, that movie stinks. Um, Slimer says that's a lot of movies using AI. Oh, hey, Kate, welcome. Steven says, wasn't this part of the strike? All all for them to end up using AI anyhow. I feel like they are using it so much they don't have to pay CG artists as much. Yeah, that's probably it, Steven. And part of the agreement, at least for SAG with AI, was that you cannot use AI on an actor without their consent and compensation. So if they wanted to use a body scan of me, I would have to consent to it and they would have to compensate me to use my artificial likeness, allegedly. That's how it's supposed to work anyway. Kai says the face replacement on Black Swan was a huge scandal because Natalie Portman did work really hard, but the double felt slighted in terms of credit. But yeah, I see what you're saying with like the face replacement. So not quite artificial intelligence, still computer generated imagery, CGI. Yeah, this does not have an easy answer, that's for sure. Mirror says, well, he did sing in Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, Chris Pine did sing. And he doesn't he play a lute? And Slimer says, I hope we get a sequel to D&D soon. Yeah, I don't think we will, but who knows? Let's see what it says about Furiosa and the rest. For Furiosa, Rising Sun used the process on an estimated 150 shots to steadily transition the character Furiosa from a child to an adult. We built controls that the artist could use to essentially dial in the exact specific look and very quickly iterate. It was a real fine balance of not introducing too many of Anya's sharp adult features when we had this younger actress playing her. I have to say, this also kind of to me feels like the brutalist conversation. Like, guys, it's okay if the child actor playing the adult movie star doesn't look exactly like what we don't audiences have been doing this forever. Like we get it. It's okay. Um the tool set's first use was on Baz Luhrmann's Elvis to place Austin Butler into old Elvis footage in select shots. Yeah, that's pretty standard. But in the past, I guess not performed by artificial intelligence. Zaire notes that overall, the tools aim to make the VFX team more efficient to put the money on the screen. Honestly, like much like all of the things that we are currently in our culture talking about, there's not a black or white answer. I've seen feeling like there is a lot of shades of gray here. Like using the AI to change Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones' performance is different to me than superimposing, using technology to like make, Elvis, like to make Austin Butler in the old Elvis footage, the way that people have been doing superimposing for kind of forever. Sorry, chat. What do you all think? Gishgali says on the WGA side, they make all kinds of rules about staff size and AI, and the studios have been basically ignoring them. WGA not fighting back so far. Yeah, ZSH. I read that article, the Paul Schrader article, his take on AI and writing. I don't know. I find it hard to believe, though, that it is like as advanced as Paul Schrader was saying, but I don't know. Yashgali says, I know what Demi Moore looked like at a young age, and it didn't detract from the movie that Margaret Qualley wasn't exactly a match. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I feel similarly. AI startup Metaphysics toolset is also nominated in the VES Emerging Tech category. It was used to age and de-age Tom Hanks and Robin Wright in Robert Zemeckis' Here, and to bring the likeness of the late actor Richard Carter, who played the bullet farmer in 2015's Mad Max Fury Road, to actor Lee Perry, who played the role in Furiosa. Yeah, I'm just like, what? Just have another just recast. What are we doing? We don't care. It's I don't know. Oh, hilarious. Metaphysic tech was additionally used by VFX nominated alien Romulus to help create the likeness of the late Ian Holm, who appeared in 1979's Alien. Well, we know how that turned out. If they win the Oscar, we riot. No disrespect, but oh my goodness. Like, come on. No, not a good case for AI, for this AI. Sorry. Was that too mean? I hope it wasn't too mean. Okay. Now let's see what Dune. AI tools can also be found in widely used content creation software such as Copycat, a feature in composting system Nuke, which was used in Dune Part 2. In that case, a machine learning model was used to identify and replicate the blue tone in the eyes of actors playing the Freemans, sorry. And in doing so, saved, quote, hundreds of hours of work. Yes. So again, it's such a it's such a slippery slope, but like that does feel like a certainly a less intrusive use of artificial intelligence in post production. But we do have to consider that, yeah, I mean, that definitely costs VFX artists their jobs. Mike says, I don't really mind a small amount of AI use. Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I again, I think when you're altering a performance, it just feels, I don't know, that just feels a little too much for me. Um, oh yeah, and what is this? What is this Amelia Perez? Okay, the speecher also identified in the Amelia Perez in credits, another tool involving AI, Audio Shake, contributed to isolating opera singer Maria Callas's vocals in the 1960s recording, which were used in the mix for the biopic Maria. But wait, what did they do in Amelia Perez? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, I do think that I do think that disclosure is good. Um and enforcing the rules are going to be important. And those are two different things. ZSH says, I'm looking at pics of myself at 5 and 10. I look very little like I do now as a fully formed adult, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good segue into the Oscars. Yay, coming up soon. Um, let's talk about the Critics Choice Awards. Critics Choice Awards were over the weekend, and as we sort of alluded to a little earlier, Anora won Best Picture. So I watched Anora this weekend, finally. And I have to say that if it won Best Picture, I would be happy about that. I would be fine with it. Sam says, I think Amelia Perez used a speecher similar to The Brutalist for Carla's vocal range for the character pre-transition. Okay, you know what? If that is the case, that's really interesting because boy, did that voice stand out to me. Like, it stood out to me pre-transition as, like, off. It did not. Let's look it up. Let's just look it up. Let's not speculate. How did Amelia Perez use AI? Okay. Let's see. The one time I want the stupid AI thing to tell me, and it just this. I'm trying to find. Let me find a good source. Cosmopolitan. Okay, voice cloning technology. Voice cloning. Okay, let's look at the Guardian. Oh, I'm not even sharing the right tab. Meanwhile, chat says, Steven says, I hate the de-aging of in Hollywood because you all have women like Halle Berry who can still do action, never given the same franchise opportunity, yet they will de-age an 80-year-old man, Harrison Ford. Oh my God. I just could not agree more, Steven. Slimer says, I hope Demi Moore wins Best Actress. I do too. I'm pulling for her. Honestly, like and she shouted out horror movies this weekend, and I really appreciated that because great genre performances should be in the conversation. And maybe if she wins, like, obviously this is a career kind of legacy culmination kind of award, but also, like, maybe it would encourage studios to actually take horror performances, especially by their female leads. I'm looking at you, IFC with the Babadook, or A24. I don't know if A24 campaigned for Toni Collette, but I feel like they should have. Or Universal and Lupita Nyong'o for Us. Like, the list goes on and on. Okay, but wait, I want to clarify. What was done in Amelia Perez. Okay. It has also emerged that AI cloning was used to enhance the singing voice of Amelia Perez's Carla Sofia Gascon in the trans gangster musical. Okay. In an interview recorded in May at the Cannes Film Festival, the film's re-recording mixer said it was necessary to increase the range of Gascon's vocal register, and that the production utilized Respeecher to blend their singing with that of Camille, the French pop star who wrote the film's score. What? I did notice this, by the way, at the end of Heretic. Conversely, Heretic, the horror movie starring Hugh Grant, has taken a radical anti-AI stance with its end credits, including the message no generative AI was used in the making of this film. And then here's a little synopsis of that Paul Schrader story. Filmmaker Paul Schrader revealed in a post on Facebook that he had also been experimenting with AI using ChatGPT to generate ideas for films by major auteurs, including Paul Thomas Anderson, Quentin Tarantino, Ingmar Bergman, and himself, writing, I'm stunned. Every idea ChatGPT came up with in a few seconds was good and original and fleshed out. Why should writers sit around for months searching for a good idea when AI could provide one in seconds? People mistakenly think AI is technology advance, like the automobile, when in fact it's a virus driven by a hyperbolic curve. Oh heavens. Okay, let's get back to the Critics' Choice. Okay. Nope. Not that. Sorry, trying to find the article. Too many tabs, surprising no one. Okay. Wicked, Amelia Perez, and The Substance each triumphed with 3 wins at the 30th Annual Critics' Choice Awards. However, it was Anora that claimed the Best Picture prize at this year's ceremony. Chat, here's a question for you. Feel free to chime in if you want. Currently, What do you think the front runner for Best Picture at this year's Oscars is? What do you think the front runner, not what you think should win, or not what's your favorite, but what do you think the front runner is for Best Picture at this year's Oscars? Oh no, look what I've done. Hyperbolic is a good word to use AI. Eek. Okay. So, uh Honora walked away with Best Picture and nothing more at Critics' Choice. Meanwhile, Wicked director John M. Chu, who wasn't nominated at the Academy Awards Best Director category, beat out several other Oscar nominees to win the Best Director honor at the Critics' Choice Awards. I'm going to win that Oscar, Chu said jokingly on stage. I just want to chime in for a second and say that I'm really glad John Chu won that award because he directed the hell out of Wicked. And I say it all the time, but when you make blockbuster stuff, when you make genre stuff and it's good, you make it look easy. But if it was easy, everyone would do it. And I think that is just the truly like the double-edged sword. And I think it is a shame. I think it's a real shame that John Chu was not nominated for Wicked Part 1. I really do. So that's just my hot take stance. Chat says, okay, in answer to my question of what do you think the front runner is for the Best Picture Oscar? Let's see. Stereo says by default it's Anora. Mike says Anora. Slimer says The Brutalist. David says The Brutalist. Sam says Anora is the front runner since Cannes. It won the Palme d'Or. It's lost some traction, and now it's back after CCA, DGA, and PGA. Yeah, that's a really good point, Sam. Brian says Anora. It seems to have the momentum. Steven says Anora. It won PGA and DGA along with Critics' Choice. Gishgali still gives it to The Brutalist, although he says it's tough this year. Interesting. Alan Smithy says it seems like we all need to revisit the classic Al Pacino Simone / Sim1. You sure do. Steven says it's like Greta Gerwig with Barbie, where they didn't give her enough credit as the director of the film. Oh, Steven, I could live on that soapbox. Just the Oscars really made me angry last year, like really angry, like very angry. Okay. In film acting categories had less surprises as the ceremony handed Best Actress to Demi Moore, Best Actor to Adrian Brody, Best Supporting Actress to Zoe Saldana, and Best Supporting Actor to Kieran Culkin. I know that this sounds like such a cliche thing to say, but I really do think that Mikey Madsen has a long and lauded career ahead of her. I first saw her on the show Better Things, Pamela Adlon's show, and I thought she was absolutely wonderful. She's great on that show. I loved that show. But I don't know if I don't know if we have a ton of parts for actresses and Demi Moore will get to play them. Like I kind of want her to win because I don't know if she's going to have another opportunity. Whereas like it's a little bit of like age bias, I suppose, in that I'm saying, oh, Mikey's got her whole career ahead of her. But then there are a lot of people saying that it's kind of like the Jennifer Lawrence Winter's Bone win. I don't know. Kieran Culkin also won for A Real Pain. So I think, maybe we'll have some surprises, but this has got to be the big four for the acting, right? Do you all see any surprises there? I kind of feel like this is what it's going to be for the Oscars. But I guess the one little caveat I will give is that the Oscars really don't like horror movies, and so and when it comes to acting especially, so it and genre movies. You know what? I don't even wanna say this because it was such a drag, but, like, the year that Angela Bassett lost for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Jamie Lee Curtis won for Everything Everywhere All at Once, we had 2 legacy actresses who have given great performances over the years. Angela had been nominated, Jamie had not. Um, Angela was in a very high profile popcorn genre movie, which the Academy hates, which stinks because it's just so biased. And Jamie was in a quirky, interesting movie that ended up winning Best Picture. And so I worry that maybe we have a repeat with Demi where the actress her mother was also nominated. What is Something to Be Here? Sorry to be here, happy to be here. Um Maybe she wins. Maybe it's like a very conservative choice, you know? But I hope it's Demi. I don't know. Um Steven says, yes, Steven, you made this point earlier, so let's put it up there. Steven says, I would like to note Critics' Choice was closed before Amelia Perez tweets came out. I'm curious if the controversy will affect SAG, which has not even started voting. To your point, though, I do not think that I'm gonna put my little flag in the sand and say I do not think that the Amelia Perez controversy is going to impact Zoe Saldana. Everything else, like sure, but I do not think they're going to penalize Zoe Saldana. David says I could see Sebastian Stan might sneak it in for the win for Best Actor. Ooh, David, I would love that. Listen, Best Actor this year is like the actor and best actor and supporting actor this year especially, like really great performances, I think. And I loved Adrian Brody in The Brutalist. I thought he was excellent, but I am a Sebastian Stan, and I've said it before and I've say it again. You know, I think The Apprentice is very good, but his performance is outstanding. And Sebastian Stan, like, that would be wild if Sebastian Stan won for The Apprentice. That would be a big shocker. Meanwhile, Kai says, I wouldn't hate it if Jeremy Strong upset Best Supporting Actor. He's hardworking and earnest. It feels like he gets bullied. You know, okay, so I will say, because, you know, my question a couple of minutes ago was, what do you think the front runner for Best Picture is? Not what you think should win or not what your favorite was. And with this, I will say that I liked A Real Pain. I liked Kieran Culkin, but I thought the performance was fine. But it's the type of movie that it is. And this is the thing. This is where subtle, you know, obviously his character in A Real Pain is like not a subtle character, but like this is where movies and performances that are like slice of life, that are small dramas, like those sometimes get overshadowed by like big, you know, actory performances. And Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn is like, he's great in that part. Um, to me, I gravitate towards the Jeremy Strong performance over the Kieran Culkin performance. But that could also be like bombastic bias. You know what I mean? But I agree with you, Kai. Um, let's see. Stephen also wants to note that the voting body has changed a lot. Look at recent wins: Emma Stone, Poor Things, Michelle and Everything Everywhere All at Once both beat a lot more traditional biopic performances. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Emma Stone, I really, really thought she was amazing in Poor Things. I thought she was very good. Very good. It was cool to see a performance like that win, to be honest. And maybe, to your point, Steven, maybe that will be kind of maybe the comp is going to be that for the substance. This weird, weird movie, which of course I like, um, gets the recognition over, yeah, the more traditional. I don't know. Um, oh yeah, Sam. I mean, Maria Bakalova was great as Ivana. She was great. She was great. The whole cast was great. I like the movie a lot. I think the movie's very good. And it's just, you know what, do think, aside from the fact that it's based on real people who are obviously in, power right now. I think the structure of The Apprentice hurt the movie. It's just a different style of storytelling because it's sort of act 1, act 2, act 3, you know, age range, this age, this age kind of thing. So I think that hurt the movie in terms of recognition, but you know. Nicholas says, I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. And even though I thought Angela Bassett had it in the bag because I thought because I thought Jamie Lee Curtis was the weakest performance in the movie. That's fair. And yeah, Stereo says SAG voting started on the 15th of January, but it ends on the 21st of February. I gotta get my votes in. Yeah, ZSH, but that was literally 50 years ago. That's not me being a smartass. That's just like, it's kind of wild because Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist are movies that we still talk about today. And you are right. They did like those. The Oscars did recognize genre back then. That was literally 50 years ago. Unbelievable. Mike says Jeremy Strong should win. And David David says Jeremy Strong should win just for his Dunkin' Donuts Super Bowl ad. That was so great. Slimer agrees. It was cool seeing Jeremy Strong in the Dunkin' Donuts ad. Let's see. Alan says the Academy recently fired 16 high-level employees at the Academy archives, one of whom I worked with. I'm sorry to hear that. Interesting. So I guess right now, and then Shogun, the article goes on to say that Shogun crushed in the drama prize, except for Best Actress, which went to Kathy Bates for Matlock. I will say this. One thing I really like about the Critics' Choice is that it does feel like these people who vote watch the movies and the TV shows. And it does feel like, for instance, Christine Milioti. Wait, let's make sure I'm getting her name wrong. I'm sorry. Hold on. Let's pull it up. For the Penguin. Like, that was another really incredible win that is just not going to win anything anywhere else. I guess it would be a mini series, huh? Keep going. Oh yeah, and similarly, Adam Brody and Nobody Wants This. Like, people love him in that show. People love that show. So it was really cool to see it like actually get recognized. I mean, again, the Emmys are still giving best comedy to The Bear, which at this point, I'm sorry, but the the Emmy voters, at this point, it's a joke that The Bear is a comedy, whatever. the Emmy voters need to start doing right and stop voting for the bear. Like, truly, I'm sorry, but like, that's insane. That's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, best limited series or movie made for television. You have Kristen Milioti for The Penguin and Colin Farrell for The Penguin. Like, again, these people, these actors are never going to get recognized um by the Emmys, and it's really frustrating. Yeah, I was too, Steven. I was really happy that she won. And she seemed so genuinely surprised, which like I get. So I guess this is to say that, oh, look at this. It's What's Inside, my friend Kate's movie. Oh, VHS. Wow. Okay. But that's cool. It's so cool that like that I love these nominees, to be honest. Yeah, more of a variety. Okay. Let's do a couple more and then we'll close up shop. What else do I have in my notes today? In my tab of tabs. Oh, well, actually, while we're on the topic, let's kind of just close this chapter out with this. Demi Moore embraces overlooked horror films while accepting Best Actress at Critics' Choice. They're not recognized for the profundity they can hold. She said, I just want to say the very recognition, not just for me, but for what this film is about, what it's trying to convey. Your acknowledgement is almost like the elixir. It's a healing balm to the issue, the very issue the film brings forward. I'm so grateful, not just for my performance, but that you have highlighted this film, this genre. Normally, horror films are overlooked and not seen for the profundity that they can hold. And you know, this also reminded me of when Jamie Lee Curtis, to her great credit, when she won that Oscar, she stood up there and she said, "Thank you to my horror fans. Like, thank you to the people who watch those Halloween movies." Like, she definitely shouted out the fact that, you know, she knows where she came from. And I was like, good girl, Jamie. Um, Steven says, I was happy Hannah Einbinder finally won the some awards for Hacks. Jean Smart is great, but Hannah has such an amazing last season. She deserves recognition. Sam says Sophia from The Penguin is a great character. She really is. Brian says VHS. Ishgali says great speech. ZSH says Annie Wilkes and Jack Tripper's son are working together. Feels like a match made in heaven. Hilarious. And Sam says, ooh, Demi is really doing the right things for campaigning right now. Yeah, like it. Okay, let's do a couple, like one or two more. And then we will close up shop for today. Oh, can we do like a little salty corner for a second? Like, this truly made me laugh out loud when I read these two stories, these two articles. Back to the Future co-creator says F you to the people constantly asking about a fourth movie. So Bob Gale is just not having it with any sort of Back to the Future talk. Like, truly just not having it, which is absolutely hilarious. Bob Gale wrote and produced all three Back to the Future movies with franchise co-creator Robert Zemeckis, but he is not interested in reviving the time travel franchise for a fourth go-round. He appeared backstage at the Saturn Awards after receiving the George Pal Memorial Award and was asked if Back to the Future 4 will ever happen. People always say, when are you going to do Back to the Future 4? And we say, earmuffs, fuck you. Gale responded, noting the franchise has already inspired a Broadway musical that will now tour the world and has plans for a stage production on Royal Caribbean cruises. Quote, so my God, Back to the Future, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. Absolutely hilarious. And yes, Alan Smithy points out Crispin Glover strongly dislikes Bob Gale. There was a lawsuit. Yes, there was. Also over likeness, which I thought was really interesting. Yeah. You know what's funny? Yeah, I know, Brian. Sorry, language. Um, uh, Alan Alan Smithy says, I view all of the Lord of the Rings movies as horror, goblins, dark towers, giant spiders, and lots of decapitations. So I wanted to kind of highlight that real fast because I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about like a swords and sandals epic. And I was thinking about Hollywood, just like the big Hollywood movie. And I think that something like Lord of the Rings is the equivalent now, like a fantasy epic is kind of the equivalent now for us in our generation of like the big Roman sort of Colosseum movies or the again, the swords and sandals movies. Um yeah, that's it. End of thought. Steven says he said, "Don't believe any rumors. We're not doing it." Yeah, I saw the Back to the Future musical when it was here in Los Angeles. I actually saw it twice, funny enough, because I had season tickets and then another friend wanted to take me. And it's interesting. One thing I will give it credit for, the Back to the Future musical, is that it uses the score as sort of like the through line of the theme. Like there's a song called A Matter of Time that is actually written to da, 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 like actually written to the score, which I thought was really cool. Um, the problem with Back to the Future the musical, in my opinion, is that the way the action beats kind of go, there's not a really good stop start point. It's and then the third act, which is when we go to the when Marty teaches George how to be a guy, and then they set up the big finale, and then they go to the dance, and then like the second act just crushes. It's really great, but the first act is a little bumpy. And I will also say that just one little difference of opinion, Stephen, because I am a Rufus wants to chime in on this too. So I'm a season ticket holder at the Hollywood Pantages in Los Angeles. So I get a bunch of like our season is essentially like the touring musicals. So it's a lot of movie to musical adaptations. Some of them are really great, and some of them I totally agree with you, Stephen. Like you're kind of just like, why? What? Not everything has to be here. But I will say, I do think Mean Girls the musical, the stage musical. I didn't love the movie. Is one of the best stage musicals I've seen. Like I think it is just objectively a great stage musical. Um, and really funny and uses the sets and just like the character. It's just so good. It's just really fun. So that's my one little caveat. But did Pretty Woman need to be a musical? No. And so on. Hi, Yogurt Girl. Yes, Brian, such a good boy. Thank you, Stephen. He is very cute, huh? He's being very patient. He's saying, Mom, I want to go now, which is just so funny because took him out. I always take you out before the stream. I always do. You're just being a little stubborn. Anyway, this cracked me up. Just this headline. Back to the Future co-creator says F you to people constantly asking about another movie. And then yeah, this is the same. Let's do Hellraiser the musical. Oh my god, Alan Smithy. I would love. Okay. This is a caveat too. Horror movies as musicals, really great. Like Evil Dead the musical, really fun. Like super fun. Silence of the Lambs, the musical, so fun. So fun. So actually, can we please make Hellraiser the musical? That I would laugh so hard. That would be amazing. Um, yes, Nicholas Rufus is adorable. Um, he's itchy though. Oh, bud. We have such sights. We have such sights to show you. You could just hear the baritone of Pinhead. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, now we have our marching orders. We have our assignment. And all right, I think Rufus is stepping in and saying, "Come on, let's go." So, I think I'm gonna wrap up our little show here. I think that's good, right? We Are there any other big stories? We talked a lot. Oh wait, one more. Colin Robinson is joining Kiki Palmer in the Burbs TV series. Yes, you heard that right. This is about to be like one of our new favorite shows if Peacock doesn't cancel it immediately. So this is all very new to me. I saw something about the Burbs TV series and I was kind of like, wait, what? Um, but yeah, Kiki Palmer will star in and executive produce the Peacock series based on Joe Dante's 1989 dark comedy film. Uh, Palmer and Jack Whitehall are a young couple who have reluctantly located to the husband's childhood home. Their world is upended when a new neighbor moves in across the street, bringing old secrets of the cul-de-sac to light, and new deadly threats shatter the illusion of their quiet little neighborhood. Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane and veteran producer Brian Grazer are also among the executive producers. Colin Robinson joining the cast. I mean, if there are any What We Do in the Shadows fans out here, I loved this news. And to see him play opposite uh Kiki, I just was like, "Oh my god, this is going to be so good." So good. Uh-oh, but Gishgali says I hated the script. Well, I don't know. Let me just let me just live. Let me just live. Is Rufus wearing an imported Italian scarf? He got groomed last week, and so he's dressed like a Valentine. Isn't that right? You have red and white circles because you are a Valentine. It's the little things for me. ZSH says, yes, semi related. Spielberg recently said that there will never be a sequel to E.T. The novel about E.T. living and existing on his home planet is the closest to a potential sequel he's ever considered. Oh, I didn't even know this was a musical. You know, I have a dream. One of my creative dreams is to finally bring The Witches of Eastwick, the musical, to Broadway. Never played Broadway. It was a West End London show. And Daryl Van Horn is played by Hugh Jackman. I play the role of Alex, originated by Cher, obvi. And I rewrite the book because the book is not great, but the music I love. And I think it would be if you oh my god, if we could get Hugh Jackman as Daryl Van Horn, we would crush it. We would absolutely crush it. Yep, Brian, this is exactly what Gishgali was telling us about. Kiki Palmer is great. That show sounds interesting. Remains to be seen, right? All right, y'all. That's gonna do it for us for real. Rufus is staring at me. He's saying it's time to go. Thank you all so much for being here. Again, I am so sorry that Michael was unable to join us today, but he is coming. We are rescheduling. He's very excited to be here, and I'm so excited to have him here because I think you all are going to love his perspective, his experience in the entertainment industry, his partnerships with Chris Landon, and all of the above. So Yeah, I think it's going to be a great show. So if you haven't already, you can join the Discord. There's a free tier as well as or it's not a Discord, excuse me, the Patreon. There's a free tier you can join for free. You can also there are paid tiers. Hop on the Discord. If you paid a membership for Patreon, you have access to the Discord. So if you haven't already, hop on over there. And I think that's it for now. Thank you all again so much. Oh, Nicholas, thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear. I'm so happy to hear you enjoyed the show. Brian, thank you. David, thank you. Slimer, thank you. Yeah. And Alan, thank you for being here. Gishgali, thank you for being here. Sam, thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody. Steven, thank you for being here. Brian, or got a lot of people in the chat, but thank you all for being here. All right, y'all. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. And last but not least, you can find me on social. I'm on, oh, bye, Yogurt Girl. I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky. Let's go with those two for now. All right, y'all. Have a great, yeah, he was the boy from Oz, right? CSH. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good night. Bye. Thank you again.